Hey there, this is the final part 4 of the Abandoned Manor. This little 132 scale cardboard build. It's been quite a nice little thing to do. It's been a bit of a long build because I made it up as I went, like I do with most things, but it's a good learning experience. I've found a lot of things that I've never done before with this one, and it was just a great learning process overall for me. So I hope that you get something out of this too, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'm just going to do some final pieces of trim on the building just to tidy it all up nicely. These are just bits of balsa wood or popsicle sticks that I've sliced up and stained and painted with the same blue that's been used on the house itself. Nice thick water-based glue because it's coming in contact with the foam base there, which is the brickwork for the basement. And I don't want to dissolve it, so always water-based. This glue dries so clear, it's fantastic stuff, so it doesn't matter if it's a little bit messy. And you can see it's just being put in all the corners, around the bottom, all the way around, and it tidies it up, makes it look that little more sort of, professional, I suppose you'd say. I'm doing attic windows out of some cardboard. I want to make 2 of them. So I just got a bit of balsa wood so I can cut myself out a couple of templates to use for the sides of each window and the front. It'll save me measuring, that way I eyeball it, guess the size I want, make the template, and then that's it. No mucking around. Make sure the corrugations in your cardboard are going horizontally for doing a building of any kind. I'll just roughly draw them in and cut them out, and that's that. I just find it so much easier than measuring, because I know if I measure stuff it's going to come out wrong every single time. I have a genuine talent for stuffing up measurements, so this is always the way I do it, and it always seems to work out. It may not be perfect, but it's as good as I can do it, so it's good enough for me. Here's a little template that I used previously to make the windows on the building, so I'm going back to that one. Once again, no measuring. Eyeballed it, drew it in, and cut it out. I just cut through the corrugations halfway, and that way I'm making boards in the cardboard instead of doing the individual slats, which is very time consuming. They come out quite good, seeing as it's a dilapidated, manor. And it works. If you were attempting to make a new building, maybe not so much, but it does work well on these older style buildings. I had failed to notice that there was a triangular peak on these little windows, so I went back and stuck a bit on top. That's why you need to always have an image to keep referring back to, so you make sure you don't stuff up the way I do. And I put a little support in the back just so while I'm working with it, because it's quite soft cardboard, this one, I didn't want it to collapse, so I want to stabilise it until it's done. When it's all together it becomes nice and strong with that little cardboard roof. And just the shingles are sliced up little bits of tissue box paper, and just lay them on, one on top of the other all the way to the top, and they come out really nice. It's a nice quick way of doing shingles. They look quite good, they're quite strong now. And I'll just give them a quick little spray. They look like dog houses. Little spray of black matte. As you can see, it's not too bad, the angle's quite good. And they're quite strong, so they're nice little windows. A nice heavy dry brush of a greyish sort of colour. It looks white under the camera, but it's not. It's just to lay down a bit of a base, which is rough, so it looks like peeling paint, and I can apply the blue paint on top of it, which matches the building, and then it looks sort of, aged and all that good stuff. These little window frames are ones that I had previously made for the building, but they were just too clunky on the building itself. But for this, they work quite nicely, so I was glad I was able to come back to them. And the back, I got the angle wrong, so instead of trying to redo it, I cut the little piece off the initial back porch that I had made that I scrapped. Under the windows, I have painted it black, so when you look through, it will look like a vacant room, not shingles directly through the little window pane. You could see surprisingly quite well through them. You can even see on the camera there, it's just, yeah. So I darkened it to disguise what was behind it instead of cutting a hole in the roof, which is an effort. The little lady here is just a 1/32 scale little model that I sprayed black and then a little bit of a dry brush on. I just want to give the impression of, you know, a ghostly figure in the window. I cut her legs off and then I cut a bit of a hole in the roof so I could glue her down at the height that I wanted. So she wasn't sort of pressed up against the window and then she wasn't, you know, too far away, and it worked out quite well. She is so small, but she looks lovely in the window. The base I cut in half. It's a dog's breakfast underneath, but I have no wire to cut it, so I just used a bread knife and assorted things to get it down so it didn't look so much like a cake. It looks an awful lot better than it did. I just used some thick glue and my static grass applicator to make some little tufts of grass, just to put them around so it, you know, looked a little patchy. And yeah, being such a small scale, I had to kind of work with different things to get the grass looking patchy and longer in points. So using the flocking underneath, and then these little clumps that I made on top work quite nicely. Once they were glued down, they sat much better than they're doing right here like this. But they look quite nice. I made them at angles so some of them would go snugly around corners and that sort of thing as well, not just little circular pieces. I'm just going to put a tree in this vacant corner. It's just a bit of a bush that I clipped on the side of the road once. I just love the way the branches went up in this. So yeah, I'm going to cut it down a little shorter and give it a bit of a stain so it looks less like something I ripped off a bush and more like an actual tree. I don't know. I don't even know if this really does anything for it, but in my imagination I'm improving it. So, you know, give it a stain, make it look a little darker at the base, which is meant to be the trunk. Do a little bit of sort of blotchy paintwork so it just, you know, distracts the eye from what it actually is, which is a little tiny branch. I'm using some clump foliage, which I made in one of my previous videos. I can leave a link for that. I just use this spray adhesive to spray onto the top of the little branches, and then I'll sprinkle on some of the clump foliage. It's really basic stuff, this. I didn't think it was necessary to do any great video on it. There's quite a lot of them on YouTube anyway. I gave it a little sprinkling of flocking just to sort of break up the clump foliage, and then I put more clump foliage on top. I did do layers of the spray adhesive in between doing this, but it's just to kind of give detail to the tree and break up the colour a little bit as well, just to make it look more natural. If you want to make something look realistic, make it look as natural as possible. That'll be the way to do it. I added more leaves to it as well because I wasn't quite happy with it. I use a little stamp on a bit of green, very natural green tissue paper. I just get into it multiple layers at a time and then give it a shake up in a jar and then spray the adhesive again and give it a little sprinkling. These leaves may be a little bit big for this tree, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't look too bad. These little vines I made with just some twine and more flocking again with the spray adhesive. I will do a video of them following up from this one. They came out beautiful and fine and I really like them. Some XPS foam chimneys that I made. I just made a little template. This is too long. I cut them down because they were just too big for the roof, but as you can see, one either side a bit of foam, cut it out with a wire cutter, draw in the brick pattern and paint it, and you've got yourself some chimneys. They look quite good as well. These are just little bits and pieces left over from model kits that I've built, and I just randomly pick out pieces that are suitable for dioramas. I found just this little deck chair, and I painted it up a bit just to make it look old and grubby. The scale on this might be slightly off too, but I'm pretty sure it was a 132 scale tank that I got it from. And it's going to be like a hose reel. And it just looks nice. It's little things that you don't have to build. These are just bits and pieces of scrap that I save from all my builds. At the end, I bag them up, and then I can go back through them and use them for junk or bits and pieces I need to build, to save me cutting and staining and all sorts of mucking around. You'd be surprised what you can find to reuse. I can see green bits from the fire station and bits even here from the Red Dead Redemption Sheriff's Office that I made right back in the beginning. I'll use it now. Just a bit of, scrap wood laying around just to add detail and, a bit more depth to the build. This little jerry can, I laid it down and it just looks off being flat. Try to avoid ever laying things flatly on your dioramas. Being an XPS base, I just pressed hard in one corner just to give it a slight angle, so it just really helps it look like it's naturally sitting there, not like you've just literally just glued it down on its back. These are the little things that make the big differences. A clump foliage bush with a little sprinkling of flocking on it, just so it looks like leaves. At this scale they do look like tiny little leaves, and sort of just filling void right now, and trying to use colour and natural objects as well, just to bring it all together. These are scraps left over from the video I did with railings, and I thought I'd make what looks like a broken swing seat and just plonked that in there and sort of moved it around until it looked nice. It really fills that little space on the veranda, but also draws the eye into it, which is really nice. Gee, those vines look beautiful. They are so fine. More railings, just put down as though they kind of look like they fell off. I mean, the shape is incorrect, but no one would likely pick that. So, I could have cut them at an angle, but so I just put them there. And this is it complete. I did a lot of things that I haven't done before, and I enjoyed it very, very much. And it's a beautiful little piece. I really, really like it. I'm very happy with it. And it's quite delicate looking, which is also very nice. Well, I hope that you got something out of this, and I will be leaving quite a few links for all the previous videos and all the in-between videos of flocking and etc, etc. And there will be one coming up for the vines. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I do hope to see you next time.